Okay, welcome to the regular meeting of council for Monday, December 14th, otherwise known as Councillor McMillan's birthday. Happy birthday to Councillor Carol McMillan. We will dedicate the whole meeting to you.
Thank you very much. You've made me blush.
Mission accomplished. So I'll call the regular meeting of council for December 14th, 2020 to order at 3 p.m. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor McMillan. The council adopt the agenda for her meeting, being the regular council meeting on December 14th, as amended to add item 7.5 being the policing committee recruitment, 7.6 being the library board recruitment, and 7.7 being the High River Regional Airport recommendation.
I'm honored to give you that motion.
Yep. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor McMillan that council adopt the regular meeting of council minutes for November 23rd, 2020 as presented.
Once again, it's truly an honor. I'll give you that.
All in favor? Carried. Any public comments, Kara?
There are no public comments.
Strategic priorities chart, standard issue as it is. Any questions for Chris on that from council? None. So we'll go right into the good neighbor bylaw with Peter.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I'm happy to bring you the Good Neighbor Bylaw 4579 for 2020 for a third and final reading. I'll just do a little summary of the report. As you're aware, administration has put considerable work into this bylaw. It is a new bylaw for High River, but it's an amalgamation of several bylaws as outlined in the report that required changes, had limitations or gaps in enforceability, and generally several were dated and needed some updating. Administration did a review of the bylaws and public engagement for these bylaws. And as you know, they've come forward in September and October for first and second readings. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions or any comments on the bylaw.
Thanks, Peter. Councillor Cooey.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Not a question, just a thanks to Peter. This has been a huge undertaking, this bylaw. You've had a couple significant ones over the last year, so appreciate you and your team's effort in bringing these forward and updating them to a much more relevant document. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Before I forget, even though I'm here presenting it, I must recognize Pat Markley and for all of her research and work on this bylaw, and as well Jessica Giesbrecht on helping to draft it and get it finalized. Without them, I wouldn't be here today.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Masterman. The council give third and final reading to bylaw 4579-2020 being the Good Neighbor bylaw.
I'd be happy to give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Council.
And the fire protection bylaw. Cody.
Afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to present to you today the first, second, and third reading of the Fire Protection Bylaw, which is 4583-2020. In the past, we have always had a fire protection bylaw. It was rewritten in 2015. Since 2015, we've seen significant changes in code and/or our community as a whole. So we have gone and basically rework this bylaw to kind of meet what we do today. Some of the major changes that we put forward in this bylaw are the consumer fireworks piece. In the old fire code, it was fairly heavily regulated, which required us not to have much to do with the bylaw in the way of fireworks. In 2019, they created a new fire code, the National Fire Code Alberta Edition, and basically they've pulled all of that out and left it up to municipalities to regulate fireworks within our own communities. In past, we've had very few fireworks permits for consumer fireworks. One individual for the past 6 years basically has been the only person that's applied for the consumer fireworks that we're looking at kind of modifying and changing. Our high-level fireworks, which are your Canada Day and those ones done by pyrotechnics, have always been permitted and have happened regularly. A couple of the other things that we've made changes to with this bylaw is basically with regards to fire bans and fire restrictions. Our past bylaw only allowed the town to put on a fire ban, which is banning absolutely any open burning due to certain circumstances. The new proposed bylaw has the ability for us to put a fire restriction on. With the increased amount of country residential that we're starting to see being annexed into the town, we thought it'd be prudent to start to align ourselves with the surrounding county and stuff when we start talking about fire bans and fire restrictions. It's not very fair that we let one of our residents burn when the county has a burn restriction on, and here they are across the street, with a backyard burn going or something like that. So this helps us to align with those standards. Also, the restriction and the fire ban piece also allows us to put fire bans on in certain quadrants of town. When we get the spring fluff from the cottonwoods that comes and potentially creates a significant fire hazard, maybe the southwest portion of town, we can actually put a ban on in the southwest portion of town and still allow backyard campfires to occur in the southeast portion of town. Just a little bit of buffer there, I guess. So those are kind of the main significant changes that we have to the bylaw. For the most part, the meat of the bylaw is from the existing fire protection bylaw. Acts and regulations and stuff have all been amended, and it's also been amended so that it is more enforceable by our municipal enforcement. We had some significant challenges with the backyard campfire piece of the open recreational campfires, where municipal enforcement wasn't actually able to enforce it. So we've now created it so that they're able to help us enforce that piece of the bylaw. Is there any questions?
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Snodgrass, and thank you very much, Cody, for your update. I have one question and then just a couple of editing things, which will be for, I guess, ledge services regarding this bylaw. But on one of the sections, it says combustible material in automobile bodies, and then right underneath combustible material in automobiles. So what's the difference there, Cody?
I think it was kind of to do with people taking parts out of the vehicle and burning them. Is that the section that you're talking about?
Yeah, under
yes.
prohibited debris and yeah.
Yeah, so we've had issues in the past where people have removed components of vehicles, aka wiring and other pieces, and actually burning them in their backyards, creating toxic smoke and irritant smoke. So we wanted to actually capture those specific pieces to regulate those.
Oh, great, thanks. And if I can just mention the little editing things I found on page 196 of 348, under double XI, there's just a typo that it currently says within an incinerator, but it should be within. And then underneath that same section under 5 or V, it's blank. So the numbering's a little bit off. And then after the triple C, there's a Safety Codes Council that's not listed. That should be triple D, and then all the lettering should be configures. And I know it sounds nitpicky, but I'm just thinking about, it looks a little bit gappy without those editing corrections. So
Absolutely, we'll get those taken care of for you.
thanks, Cody, and have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you as well, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Cody, I looked for a definition or a discussion around those Chinese lanterns. I couldn't find anything under definitions. Is that included somewhere in there, or did I just miss it?
You know, I don't think we've ever included them. They are, I know that they're a bit of a concern, and we haven't included them into this one, as I'm not sure what they actually fit under. And there's been some significant challenges in the past. Are they an open burning? Are they a firework? Are they, what do they fit into as far as that goes, right? And even the province has done some regulations on them as well. So that was some of the other pieces with our bylaw. There were some things in here that were being regulated under fire code and other sections that we've removed out. And I believe that there's one of those. I can check into the lanterns piece, but I know that the province did a big thing on those Chinese lanterns in the past.
If you could, I'd sure appreciate it, just for good knowledge. Thank you.
Certainly.
No further questions, so I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Chuck that council give first reading, second reading, and unanimous to consent to proceed with third reading of bylaw 45832020, being the town's fire bylaw.
I think you asked me, Mr. Mayor. You cut out there just for a second, so
Yeah, I did.
I'll be happy to give you that motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Motion is carried. Ask for a motion from Councillor Cooey that council give third and final reading to bylaw 45832020.
I will give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much, Cody.
Thank you very much.
Operating and capital budgets. Chris and Leana.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for spending so much time with Chris and myself and the rest of administration over the last 6 weeks. It's been lots of fun and always enlightening. So I wanted to give the public a little bit of background. So we started off this journey on October 27th and then continued on into November on the 2nd, the 24th, and then the 30th, with all 4 of these meetings being special committee of the whole meetings, which were open to the public and which are now published on our website. If you missed one of them, that they could go back and watch if they wanted to go more in depth. On October 27th, administration started with the highlights of the 2021 operating budget and the 10-year capital plan. We then opened it up to council to see what their thoughts were, what our 10-year capital plan, and you guys gave us recommendations that you felt that certain projects needed to be pushed forward or pushed backwards. Then on October 2nd, we started the meeting off with our staff priority setting and then our presentations from our community groups. Then we continued on October 24th, and we had our utility diversion discussion with where administration presented alternatives on how to end the utility diversion. This was a very in-depth meeting and very insightful for everyone within this community to ensure that we are all paying for our utilities that we use. And then on November 30th, we did an overview on all of our budget, operating and capital with administration and council. And we had a discussion on each budget item. For example, our new initiatives, our community groups, and we had a heartfelt discussion on reasons why we should be funding this over that. Now today, with taking everything that council and administration have discussed, we're here, Chris and myself, to bring back the 2021 proposed operating and capital budgets for adoption. So within our 2021 proposed operating budget, we have included a revenue neutral approach using 2020 as our basis. We have not increased any of our utility rates. We have put in a wage freeze, so there's no cost of living adjustment and no merit or step increases. We have terminated our utility diversion, and we are going to offset the utility diversion with using some of our surplus from our 2020 surplus to set up a tax stabilization fund, which will help ease the impact of the utility diversion. Within the community group funding, we have $755,200 that was presented to council and debated on November 30th, and $151,000 in new initiatives. I'm asking council if they would like us to go through each one of those with you, or if you would like to just go ahead and pass the operating and then our capital budgets, or if there's any questions.
Any questions from council? Councillor Masterman. Thanks, Leana.
Leana, I don't really have a real riveting question or anything, but I do want to thank you and of course everybody else for guiding us through this process to making it as painless as possible. And as you noted, and that word kind of escaped my thoughts when we were going through this, but you called it fun. And I guess it really was. So, although I'm still coming to the fun part of it, but but no, I really don't have any questions, and and personally, I don't really need to go through every part, but of course that's up to you and the mayor. It might be helpful for anybody listening to hear parts of it. So, but thanks so much.
Well, it's up to council as to how much you want to go through this. Everything's outlined in our package and in the budget. So I think we can move on, and we'll just get this budget passed. If anybody needs subsequent information, well, it's always there available from the town. So no further questions. And yeah, Leana and Chris, you guys have done an absolute phenomenal job of taking us through this, just like Bruce said, and really kind of taking a different look at it this year as to how we do the budget process and how we should be handling our town budgets. And there's some changes from what we've done in the past, which is great. And it's nice to see a fresh set of eyes on it from Chris and some new ideas as to how we go about this. And I think I think everybody's done a phenomenal job of getting us to where we're at. So many, many thanks to both of you and to Ray. I know Ray's in here somewhere. There he is. So I will ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council approve the 2021 operating budget in the amount of $33,249,360, which includes a revenue neutral approach using 2020 revenue as a base, no utility rate increases, wage freeze, no cost of living adjustments or step increases, terminates the utility diversion 2021, use of the 2020 surplus, set up a tax stabilization fund to ease the impact of the utility diversion, $755,200 in community group funding, and $155,000 in new initiatives.
Can I just correct that? It's 151,000 in new initiatives. That was a typo.
Thank you. 151,000 of new initiatives, and the council approved the 2021 capital budget in the amount of $28,621,161. Councillor Kinghorn, please.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you that motion, and a quick shout out to all of our staff, everybody that's going to be contributing to this budget for this year, and thanks everybody, and you have that motion.
Thank you. No further questions on the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried, unanimous. Thank you very much, Leana.
Thank you.
Oh, Ray's doing the bad debt write-off.
I am. Good afternoon and happy birthday, Councillor McMillan. So annually, administration will come before you for a request for writing off certain accounts. This has everything to do with the fair representation of our financial statements. So we want to make sure that what we still have recorded in our accounts receivable, administration thinks is a fair and likelihood of collection. We're not asking for too many accounts to be written off in utilities or in taxes. The large amount is the grant in lieu of taxes. This is in regards to the 2019 tax year. The province came out saying that they will only pay 50% of the property taxes for any properties that they own. This is not a negotiable item. It is a grant in lieu of taxes, and it's the province's prerogative if any amounts are paid at all for towards property taxes. So we think it would be a fair representation of our accounts to reduce these back down to zero. All the details are in your report, and I would be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ray. The grant in lieu. Last year we did not do this. We sent an invoice back to them, thereabouts. What are we doing? Is that included in this number, last year's, or where has last year's number gone?
This is last year. So this is 2019. Yeah,
okay, so
we didn't come with the 2020. We're going to set up the 2020 as an allowance. But the province has yet to pay their property taxes. So we didn't want to come to council with the 2020 write-off when we haven't received a payment at all yet. So
gotcha.
We'll address that next year.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Masterman.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. I think that's what I was going to mention as well. Last year we kind of made a point in doing that, and I just, I don't know, I'm certainly not influenced by the letter that we got from the minister, explaining, why they decided to cut it back to 50%. And, but I guess I'm still reluctant to forgive this part because forgiveness is kind of agreeing that and I think they're wrong to do this, and I know that they've made cutbacks in other areas as well, but to just kind of arbitrarily cut us back last year to 50%, and then again this year 50%. I'm not really crazy about, but I did about forgiving. Sorry. I hit mute, sorry. I'm just not crazy about forgiving that part, but I'd love to hear what other people might have to say about it as well. Thanks.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ray, for your presentation as well as your birthday greetings. I'm just blushing a lot this meeting. My question is also around those the grant is what would happen if we don't, like if we did send a letter, is it just going to keep that it's outstanding? Like, is there any other way out of that?
I don't believe the town actually has a legal recourse. It's laid out very clearly in the Municipal Government Act that provincial properties are exempt from taxation, and any payments are considered a grant in place of taxes. And I know that municipalities across Alberta have enjoyed the fruits of the province when we were receiving a full payment amount. But as the minister explained, those good times are coming to an end, and we have seen a 50% payment this year for 2019, I should say. 2020 likely it'll be another 50%, and that in all likelihood that'll continue in the future. So I know nobody's happy about it, but it's our job is to fairly represent our total receivable for any amounts. If we think it's likely that we'll get something, we can leave it on the books. However, if we don't think that there's a likelihood, then it would be a fair presentation for our financial statements to have it removed.
And I was under the impression that in the future, there won't be any 50% at all. Is that correct, Ray? Like that's soon they won't be paying anything, correct?
I think that's where the province is going to be going, is a reduction to no payments at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we're going to be heading.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I guess, Councillor Masterman, I'm on board with you. There's no question. I'm like, but what I don't want is for our spiteful moves to be causing issues with our own bookkeeping and for Ray and Leana, because we know they're never going to pay this back. And I don't know, for any business, I guess that's a good way to get your books back in order, is to just quit paying your bills. I think it's, I don't know. I could go on forever about how I really feel about this, but at the end of the day, I think it's, as far as for us and our staff and our administration, I think it's fair to just to write these off and move on, knowing full well what's actually going on. Back to Councillor Masterman.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass, and I appreciate your comments and all the other comments made on this. You know, I think we did it last year to make a point. I don't know if they noticed a point or not, but you know, I think to continue on is really not necessary. That we might as well just balance our books, and it doesn't mean we have to be happy about it, and or because I'm certainly not happy, and I don't think any of us are happy with the arbitrary nature of this, and so it's not like we can tell the province how much that we might owe them on various things, and we're not going to pay them. And I know they don't really owe us anything because it's, you know, this is a voluntary thing. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say. But thanks so much.
Thanks, Bruce. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor McMillan that council authorizes the write-off of $1,345.39 in property taxes, $2,652.50 in accounts receivable, and $28,397.61 in grant in lieu of property taxes.
I'll give you that motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks very much, Ray. River Sunset Drive-In, Jody.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. And again, a very happy birthday to Councillor McMillan before we jump into this next item for discussion.
Thank you.
As you know, the town leases lands on the west end of the former airstrip, the just south of the Ag Society grounds, to the High River Sunset Drive-In Limited for drive-in movies and concerts that are transmitted via FM radio. This lease is for a term that expires on June 14th, 2024, with an option to renew for an additional 5 years based on the timing for development of the Spitzy Crossing area. Last month, administration received a letter with some requests for the town's consideration. The first was to amend the permitted use of the leased lands to include additional community events and activities, including ice sculpture contests, winter festivals, and other displays of locally made art, live auctions and or live concerts, which would obviously be as COVID-19 restrictions allow, as well as considering drive-in bingo. Just want to clarify that this request does require dual approval, one from council as the landlord to indicate that these are permitted activities within the lease agreement, and a second from the Planning and Development Division as the Land Use Bylaw Authority. So Corporate Properties and Risk Management has worked with Planning and Development to determine whether the above uses are acceptable from a land use bylaw perspective, as well as whether or not these are acceptable from a lease perspective. And we're recommending that both the lease agreement and the land use bylaw align. Therefore, administration recommends that the permitted use within the lease be updated as per the description in the council package. And the reason for the permitted use as written is to allow for the activities while taking special consideration for live auctions and live concerts, as they will require an intensification of use application for each particular event. As for the drive-in bingo, gaming establishments are not permitted as a permitted use under the land use bylaw, as these lands fall under the urban reserve district. Now, in that same letter of request, there was a request to amend the lease date to reflect a full 5-year lease. Administration recommends staying with the original lease date to June 14, 2024, as the first year of the lease was between the town and the River City Classics and Eamon's Garage Historical Society. And that date aligns with the lease for that easterly portion of the former airstrip, which is currently leased to the Ag Society. There was one more request in the letter that we received, and it included approval for installation of a permanent electrical utility service on the leased lands. As these lands fall under the Urban Reserve District, essential public utilities are permitted. Therefore, the town simply needs to approve the installation as the owner of the lands, so this can proceed under the oversight of the High River Sunset Driving Group. However, with the lease agreement, an easement would be required, and this is not a condition that is allowable under the current lease. So council would have to make this approval specifically as an exception from the lease agreement. For these reasons, council recommends that council support the amendment of the permitted use within the lease agreement to the High River Sunset Drive-In Limited and authorize the mayor and council to execute the amendment to the lease agreement. As well, administration recommends council provides approval for the High River Sunset Drive-In Limited to install a permanent electrical utility service on the lands, including any right-of-way or easement that may need to be required or registered Untitled to support the utility service. So I want to thank you for your time and turn it over if there are any questions from council.
Councillor Cooey.
Thanks, Jody, very much. Just a question regarding the bingo. I'm just curious, because it's not really becoming an establishment, and I don't know. I'm going to pull Shepherd Family Park off the top of my head. I don't know if it's urban reserve or not, but I guess my point is what difference is it if I were to rent that facility and I get through the AGLC gaming and have a license and everything, whether it be to play bingo or play a raffle? I guess because this isn't, I don't, well, and I could be wrong. I don't see, it doesn't make it I don't know. I'm struggling with it becoming a gaming establishment when it's kind of only a one-off or a once in a while thing. And when we can do it potentially in other facilities, just tell me the difference, I guess.
Okay, I am actually going to ask Shalane to comment on that, as I believe it is a difference with the Urban Reserve District. So Shalane, are you able to comment?
Yes, I am. So hi, Mayor and Council. So the gaming establishment, it's really clear in our land use bylaw that it is prohibited in the district that it is in. So that's why we made that decision not to move ahead with it. If you would like us to look into some other options, I'm not too sure if we'd consider something like amending the land use bylaw, but maybe an exception like the intensification of use permits. I agree, Kathy, that they have to go through AGLC. It was just our land use bylaw was very clear that it was prohibited. Gaming establishments are just, it was cut and dry, it was prohibited in that area. So if there is some direction from council that we should look at something else for the interim, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I was just curious if, you know, and I guess, you know, yeah, I guess I was just struggling again, if there was other areas, like, I don't know, I'm struggling to find a good example, but it's fine. I'm not gonna die on that cross for sure. But I was just curious as to thinking behind it and wanting to ensure that it doesn't restrict other activities. And I guess what I'm just gonna say it right out loud. I hate to open up this can of worms. So someone like the Harbor Hospital Foundation rents a facility and they run a raffle. Is that allowed?
In a lot of the other districts, the gaming facility is allowed. It's specifically the urban reserve district that is a little bit tricky because it's a transition area. So that's why we face a lot of these struggles, is because it's the transition piece. When you're in the other districts, the gaming establishments are allowed. So chances are they wouldn't run into problems.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, Kathy, and I don't know, just thinking about this and knowing how the Hospital Foundation runs that raffle, that's much more of an internal thing, and then there's a winner. Even though you might have an event out there, I think it would be separate from your raffle that you do. Would it not be like your 50-50 online thing that you did this year?
Yeah, and I guess what you're saying is part of the event, we couldn't, I'm just using that just as an example, any charity that's renting that event couldn't play bingo as a way to raise funds. It's because the actual gaming activity is happening
there
on that facility.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elaine and Jody.
You know, Kathy, I will look more into that, though. It is a really good point. I will chat with Colette about it and see if there's any other options. I respect that, you know, it's something that we want to encourage on this site, and to have, you know, they're just trying to maximize the amount of activities that they can have there. So I'll definitely talk to Colette about this before we, I mean, we'll of course make a decision today, but I'll chat with him about it to see if, you know, there's some place in the land use bylaw that would open this up in the future, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think they were just looking at another way, just after a casual conversation, to offer charities in our community to make some more money and to bring in other activities. So you're right, Shalene, no problem.
Yeah, agreed.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, Jody. Well done. I'm totally in favor of this happening out there. The one question I would have, though, is it doesn't seem to be any sort of a reporting mechanism built in. We talk about 50% of the revenues going to various fundraising activities, and I assume those will be in a high river area, but there is no accounting, and it would be beneficial, I think, at the end of the year for us to get some sort of accounting of just how much is generated for various organizations within High River, and celebrate that fact. Not as a control mechanism of any sort, but just to celebrate that this is how much has gone back into the community on our property out there. Thank you.
Absolutely, I do agree. And I believe it was just over a month ago where they did have their distribution of funds for local charities. So we could, if council decided, include something in the lease agreement and in the proposed amendment letter to say that we want to receive a copy of that annual distribution of funds and where they're going. That would be completely up to council.
I certainly would support something like that being included.
Councillor McMillan.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Jody and Shalane, for your presentation. And I'm in agreement with Councillor Kinghorn. I think that would be very good for us to have a reporting of the charitable events and how much that is being distributed.
No further questions. So I'm going to minimize this motion a little bit, but it's all there. So ask for a motion from Councillor Cooey that Council direct administration to update the permitted use in the lease to the westerly 4 acres, 429, 1912 Northeast with the High River Sunset Drive-In Limited to the following as listed in your agenda. Nothing changes there. And that Council authorize the mayor and CAO to execute the amended lease agreement, including the permitted uses as described, and request a list of supported local charities on a yearly basis. And the Council direct administration to provide approval for the High River Sunset Drive-In Limited to install a permanent electrical utility service to the location, including the allowance for registration of a utility right-of-way, access easement, or other documentation to support the service. Councillor Cooey.
I will happily give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Motion carries. Thanks very much, Jody.
Thank you.
Municipal election returning officer and substitute returning officer. 'Tis the season. Kara.
So good afternoon, Mayor and Council. With changes to the Local Authorities Election Act, nominations for the 2021 municipal election can start being submitted to the town as of January 1, 2021. As a result, we're here to recommend appointment of the returning officer as well as the substitute returning officer. With the changes to the Act, administration is also recommending a review of the election bylaw to ensure complete alignment with these legislative changes. Administration also recognizes that the conduct of the 2021 municipal election may look slightly different because of COVID-19, and therefore administration recommends bringing forward a more detailed cost analysis and communications plan in early 2021 for Council's consideration and further discussion. Are there any questions?
No questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Moore that Council appoint Kara Rusk to the role of returning officer and Nicole Chappelle to the role of substitute returning officer for the 2021 municipal election, and the Council direct administration review the town's municipal election bylaw and return to Council in early 2021 with any proposed revisions, along with a detailed communications plan and cost analysis for the 2021 municipal election.
I will make that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Motion is carried. Policing committee recruitment, Kara?
So currently the High River Policing Committee currently has one vacancy. Administration has only received one application, and at this time, what we're recommending is that Council hold off recruiting for this vacancy and filling this vacancy at this time until we bring forward the board and committee bylaw in early 2021, as it likely will have a new terms of reference, and we want to make sure that any new appointments align with that. Are there any questions?
No questions. I'll say it because I think it's only fair that the one applicant that we did have, there are already 2 family members on that committee that applicant is directly related to. So we just want to be very careful that we don't get too many people from one family being on one committee. So that's why we are putting this back, and we do have to, as we update our terms of reference for all of our committees, that this needs to be reflected in that, so that it's clearly outlined that we can't have It's just, it doesn't give us a broad spectrum of community involvement if we have 3 members of one family on one committee. So that's the reason. So I will ask for a motion from Councillor Masterman that the town has only received 1 application for the vacancy to date, and that council direct administration to place the recruitment for the existing vacancy on hold until a new terms of reference in the board and committee bylaw is developed for the policing committee as part of the town's existing board and committee review.
Mayor Snodgrass, I will very enthusiastically give you that motion. Thank you
very much. Enthusiastically, because it's Councillor McMillan's birthday today. All in favor? Not of the birthday of the motion. The birthday is going to happen regardless. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Library Board, Kara.
So let me just add happy birthday, Councillor McMillan. So administration is pleased to recommend Holly Ottawell for appointment to the High River Library Board. Holly's background as a librarian and a manager of public library would be a strong asset to this particular board, and so we are recommending her for appointment. Are there any questions?
That was a lot of words I just blew through there, and I'm an asthmatic, so I'm going to have trouble now. As for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn, the council appoint Ms. Holly Otwell to the High River Library Board for a 3-year term expiring on October 31st, 2023, and the council direct administration to continue with recruitment efforts to fill the remaining vacancies on the High River Library Board.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Happy birthday, Councillor McMillan. I'll give you that motion. Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 7.7, High River Airport Terminal. Councillor Kinghorn, could you speak to this quickly?
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is just to cover off an agreement that we made with the County of Foothills that the High River Regional Airport wants to put a temporary or a terminal out there at the airport that will allow for bathrooms and that sort of thing from incoming pilots. We've capped the expenditure at $50,000, which is to come from their operating revenues of either 2020 or 2021. I think it'll be split a bit. And I hope that council will approve this.
No questions from council. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council authorize the purchase of 1 prefabricated shelter to be used as a terminal at the High River Regional Airport with costs not to exceed $50,000 and such funding to come from the 2021 lease revenue at the High River Regional Airport, and such approval is subject to the successful application for development permit from Foothills County.
I will make that motion for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion is carried. Council correspondence, letter from the minister. We've all read it. And any questions before we adjourn? The only thing I would like to say is happy birthday to Councillor Carol McMillan today. I don't know that it's been mentioned yet in this meeting, but I think it's just prudent and as a special day that it needs to be captured in this meeting today, since I dedicated the whole thing to you.
You know, that's very special, and thank you. And it really does mean a lot. You guys have made me blush, all of you, throughout the entire meeting, but it's really brightened my day. So thank you very much.
This meeting is adjourned at 3:49, but the birthday continues on. And we'll go out to the High River Sunset Drive-In and have a party, but there's no bingo. Meeting adjourned. Have a good night. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everyone.